which is I guess it's a new Netflix movie. Jeremy brought it to my attention, and I'd never heard of it before.
Well, neither had I. I just went through IMDb, and it kind of popped up there like, well, that's a weird name.
Oh,
if something's on Netflix, I would generally watch it.
Sure.
Or I'll watch half of it at the very least.
We're going to talk about IMDb at some point. So, for context, this movie is a dubbed movie. The original language is Spanish, and whoops, they have German, English, European Spanish, French, Italian, and European Spanish again as potential language options. So enjoy that. So Jeremy, do you want me to? I'll read the synopsis and then you can guide us on this little journey that you started us on. So, a vertical prison with 1 cell per level, 2 people per cell, only food platform. What the hell? This is from IMDb. One only food platform and 2 minutes per day to lead from up to down. This is a really weird. Okay, scratch that IMDb one. So the first part makes sense. Each floor is a cell, 2 people per cell. There are chefs up at the top who make a bunch of meals and send it on sort of like a conveyor, like a vertical conveyor type contraption. And the people at the top in cell 1 get to eat as much as they want. They have 2 minutes. Then it drops down to cell 2 and it goes from there. So essentially, if you're in cell 300 or whatever, you're probably going to starve to death because
not probably. I think they said at like 150 there's just no food at all.
You can eat glass if you're at cell 300.
Which I thought that was strange. Like, wouldn't you keep the glass?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, I had one question for you. What is the genre of this movie? If you had to guess.
Psychological thriller.
IMDb has this as horror, sci-fi, and thriller. Does that sound right?
I mean, it was pretty horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible, but not horror.
I mean, there is some pretty gruesome cannibalism going on.
Sure. Oh, here we go. This is what I was looking for. This came out March 20th, 2020, which is shocking. This movie could have come out in 1985 and nothing would have changed. Except probably the actors. All right.
You're seeing like 5-year-olds doing that.
Where do you want to start?
So, I feel like if you're just listening to this, you don't really understand what we're talking about when we say the vertical cells. So, I want you to picture in your head just a one-room tower. Well, not one room, but each floor is one room, and so you can look up and diagonally into the room above you, and you can look down diagonally into the room below you because there's a hole in the center of the room.
Yep.
And then supported by nothing, there's this platform that is basically an airtight seal with a hole in the room. So when the platform is at your level, you can't see down, but you can see up.
Right. Let me add to that. It's a table-sized hole. So it's like a big, pretty sizable dining room table just full of food.
And so it's very sort of like sci-fi, Hunger Games, Black Mirror-esque in the way it's shot and the way everyone's acting. Like everyone except the main character is some sort of sociopath or an idiot or a zealot of some sort.
Yeah. What you don't know is that Floor Zero is the plot for Infinity Chamber, the movie we did earlier on in this. It totally that way.
I'm not sure that's accurate. I don't remember anyone making food in Infinity Chamber.
So this movie was absolutely disgusting to me. Just watching that old guy uh,
Hmm.
eat was just made me nauseous. So do you want to set that up? So our main character, I don't know any of these characters' name. I watched this movie, I paid attention to this movie. I cannot tell you a single name. So our main character, he's stuck in a cell with some old dude who's been there for a while. And the as we said earlier, it's two people per cell. So what happened to the guy's old roommate? Cellmate, not roommate. They're
I
not
mean,
paying
they
rent.
they kind of foreshadow that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as he says, "Oh, down there you don't get any food," like, yeah, he ate that dude. Like, I mean, he had a 2 month period of either fasting or cannibalism, and the guy's fat.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So, this is a really weird one. I marked down 3 points where I was legitimately disgusted, and I'm just gonna run through those, even though they jump ahead in the plot of this movie. So, the old dude eating that grossed me out so bad. Even though he was just eating normal stuff, just the way he was eating was pretty goddamn disgusting.
Yeah, the
The
noises are what really do it.
Yeah, and the food hanging. He reminded me of Danny DeVito in Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's eating the trash. So, uh, when a certain somebody dies in this movie, a la the old guy, and our main character is eating him, and I don't know how much time passed, but there's already maggots in this dude in the hole where that lady killed him, and he's eating even where the maggots are. That was pretty gross. And there's one point in the movie where our main character gets a new roommate, and he's this very hyperactive gentleman who wants to get out. And he's yelling up, as Jeremy said, you can see the people on the floor above you, and he's yelling up to them to grab the rope so he can climb up and eventually make his way out by teaming with all these people. So they hold the rope for him. He starts to climb up, and when he gets to the top of the floor and reaches his hand out, all of a sudden there's an ass above him. the guy, the guy or the girl, I don't even know which one it was, shits in his eye, like, drops a turd in his eye, and that was my final straw with this movie. I was done at that point.
I have to ask though, like, do you think you could poop like that on command like that?
No, no. If it was gonna come out, like I'd be there'd at least be some like noises of like trying to force one out. He forced out a Mr. Hanky directly on this dude's eye socket. It's like, you got pink eye now, motherfucker. It was disgusting. And the dude, like, he was screaming, but after you think about it for a sec, you're like, yeah, that's the same reaction I'd have if someone just dropped twos in my eye. So
Yeah, so this
fucked up.
movie has a lot of really gross stuff going on. All the nudity is male, if you're into that. Um, there's near the end, there's a scene with like two naked dudes in a kiddie pool, and then they start fighting over a hot dog or whatever. I don't know how they managed to be alive at this point of the movie. If they're just like I, the mechanics of filling up a kiddie pool in that environment really make me wonder about everything.
Yep. So, did you like the little knife story between our main character and the old dude? It was a really lame, nice knife story, I thought. So
Oh yeah, the knife gets sharper the more you use it.
the old guy's telling the story about how he got into the prison, and he tells this long story essentially about an infomercial that told him he could sharpen his knives, even his most dull of knives, with this sharpener they had. And then the next day after he bought the sharpener, they were advertising a knife that you never had to sharpen. So he threw the knives or whatever out the window and killed somebody. So that's why he's in prison. It's like, this is so stupid. What are the odds? Okay,
Hmm.
you throw a knife out the window. How high would you have to be up to kill somebody? Think about that. It's not like you're throwing it with any force whatsoever. It would
I
have
don't
to
think he threw
hit.
a knife out the window. I think he threw like a TV or a microwave or something like that, like an appliance.
What? Why wouldn't he throw his thing that he didn't want anymore? I don't
Well,
know.
no,
I
I
thought it
think
was.
he threw his TV because he was mad.
Oh, goddamn
Because it was
knives!
like
Where's my
TV.
TV?
It was a TV infomercial, and so he threw the TV.
Ah,
I think
okay,
is that's my recollection.
that makes sense. So he threw a TV out and just mushed somebody. I hope he was like 20 stories up, because then it would just be like this. Oh, what if it was like a portable TV and it was still playing as it was like, oh, what if it dropped on the guy's head and it like pushed his head down so it just looked like the TV was his head and he's still walking for a couple steps.
Okay, that's a weird image.
So let me, before we continue on, let me explain to you what I thought this movie was going to be after the first 10 minutes. I thought we were going to get a The Hunt style revenge scenario, right?
Hmm.
I thought that a bunch of people were going to be dying, and then our main character and possibly the old guy, we're gonna find a way to get up and out, maybe halfway through the movie, and go on some sort of killing spree of all the people that put them there. I never expected what we got.
Yeah, I think to me that kind of ending, the one that we got, was a little bit foreshadowed because of if you look at the dialogue, the movie is leaning really hard on the idea of like selfishness and sharing. Sort of like they spend half the movie talking about how everyone above them is greedy and everyone below them is a loser because they're below them, even though it's randomly assigned every month. I
Yep.
guess we should explain. You're in there for a set number of months as your punishment. And so you're at the level you're at with access to the food and people above you spitting on your food and in some cases like throwing up on it,
Yep.
which was the grossest thing to me. I would not live long in that place.
No.
Not eating that. And
I'd be cannibalizing someone like 4 minutes in. Like, where's the food? Like, all right, sorry, Jeff, you're going. It's like, wait, we're only on floor 5. Sorry, go ahead.
and so it's this whole and it's a very blatant and heavy-handed sort of parable about the evils of like human selfishness and probably greed or capitalism if you're on Reddit right now.
Yeah, and let me add something to that. We never explained exactly what the food was. So everyone that was put in the cell, the one of the people there asked, "What is your favorite food?" So one portion of everybody's favorite food was put on that table every day.
Well, there was not like 300 portions of food on that table. That's one of my bugbears about this thing is the
Sure.
way they set it up.
But that was the intent, right?
They said that was the intent, but they literally could not be bothered to make a table with enough food on it.
Yeah. But in terms of the story, we'll stick with that.
Yeah.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, the idea is that the people at the top who are randomly assigned
Yep.
are A, psychopaths, and
Mhm.
B, extraordinarily greedy because they're eating just to eat. Like the way people are shot eating,
Mhm.
it's like, I mean, they eat with their hands. They make like snorting and slurping noises,
Yeah.
and they just grab food randomly. Like, oh, there's a chicken bone that he's gnawing on, and then he grabs a handful of cake, and then he grabs like a snail and eats that, and then he grabs like it's this majestic layout of very expensive food, like a tiered cake and like a bowl of caviar, that sort of thing. There was no pizza, which 200 people, no one said pizza was their favorite. I'm calling shenanigans. I didn't see a cheeseburger either. So unrealistic movie.
What would
No
yours
one
be?
likes cheeseburgers in that prison. Come on.
What would your pick be for your favorite food?
Probably pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is they wouldn't. I mean, it's not really a problem because pizza's great, but they wouldn't change up the toppings each day. That'd be my only fallback. But I think
I'm okay
pizza
with pizza as long as there's pepperoni on it.
really. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna blow your mind.
Pepperoni plus everything else is my favorite pizza, but you always want like pepperoni to me is pizza flavor.
Right. I may or may not blow your mind, but I love pizza, but I hate pepperoni on pizza. I love pizza and I love pepperoni.
You're
I
like a
hate,
pizza heretic. What do
yeah,
you
I
eat
know.
white pizza like a psychopath?
No, I'll eat almost anything on pizza. Like my go-to is banana pepper and bacon. Oh,
That's
it's
so
so
weird.
good. It's so good. But I'll
Banana pepper
literally eat
bacon.
anything. Supreme pizza, but I'll just tell them, hey, no pepperoni, please.
You don't like pepperoni.
I
Okay.
like pepperoni by itself, but not on pizza. It's just a weird thing
Where
I
else do
have.
you eat pepperoni?
You never have like pepperoni and cheese like on crackers or anything?
You just described a pizza.
No, no, no. Like a cheese plate with pepperoni. Like cold pepperoni, you know?
No, no, I don't think pepper. I mean, salami maybe, but pepperoni, I don't think so.
Yeah, pepperoni. Maybe it's a New
Which I
York
mean,
thing. I don't
pepperoni
know.
is a type of salami, but I don't know.
Sure, sure. But it's definitely pepperoni. Like they even come pre-sliced for pizza and we still put them on crackers and cheese.
I've
I'm
never
I'm
been a
like the
big fan of Lunchables myself.
I'm literally the only person I know that does not like pepperoni on pizza, and I don't know what it is. But
Yeah, one of my go-to meals for a while was there was a takeout place that had pretty cheap pizzas, and I would get double pepperoni and extra cheese,
ooh, okay.
and that was my jam.
What
But
about
anyway, back to
mushrooms?
what?
You a mushroom guy?
Um, I like mushrooms. Not necessarily like I like mushrooms on pizza. If you're gonna throw it on there for free, then like go ahead. But I don't find mushrooms to be really flavorful enough to hold up to the rest of a pizza.
Sure.
So like I love like beef and mushrooms or putting mushrooms in a stew or
Hmm.
something where like the mushroom like soaks up other flavors. Or even
Yeah,
just like roasted mushrooms with some seasoning on them in the oven. I love those. But on the pizza, I could take it or leave it.
sure. Yeah, pizza's a solid choice. I don't really know what I'd go. Maybe sandwich. I could eat a sandwich every day.
This is such a weird conversation
Probably
to
shouldn't.
have in the middle of a review of this disgusting movie.
Yeah, it's all about
Like,
food, isn't it?
like we just watched
So
someone eat out of a trough of vomit, and now we're talking about what's my favorite pizza topping.
So let me say this. This movie, I think this whole experiment was designed that if people would have just eaten their favorite food,
Mhm.
then everyone would have survived. You could have eaten your favorite food once a day, every day, and every single one of these people would have survived, theoretically.
Okay, so you're telling me there's someone that's going to eat their own two-tiered cake, and someone else is going to have like 8 snails for their lunch?
Well, that's their bad for picking dumb shit. But, you know,
Okay, I'm going to push back on that. But first, I feel like we need to set up the movie in that it's designed to kind of create this parable world, sort of like a you know, all that like like they gave them enough, like they gave them some rope and watched them hang themselves.
uh-huh.
But the way the mechanics work, you're kind of forcing them into this weird barbarity. Like none of the food on that tray is meant to be eaten with your hands. They had
Hmm.
a three-tiered cake. You don't eat that with your hands. But did you see a knife and fork on that tray?
Right. Okay.
And
I see
how is
where.
someone supposed to know how much food how much food to eat to break it down. Hey, they don't know how many people are in the thing. No one knows how deep it goes.
Right.
Like
Only the
everyone's talking about, oh,
people.
what's the furthest down you've been? That sort of
That's
thing.
true. Nobody knows. Like even the people who are at level 200 don't know how far it goes. Right. I mean, even though they're not getting any food to them, but they still have no idea.
Yeah,
So
and that's not the way appetite works. Like you
yeah.
eat until you're not hungry anymore. That's how everyone eats all the time. No one has a calorie detector in their stomach. You eat based on appetite, and your appetite is based on how much food is in front of you. If
Right.
you left me in a room with, just steak and potatoes, I would eat a certain amount. If you left me in a room with fried chicken and French fries, I'm going to eat a lot more. And I'm not going to have any sense of, oh, if I have two more bites, that will be 12% more calories than I need.
Right.
And I think they kind of proved that in their own thing when the woman brought the dog in,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to take the dog's portion food out of my rations." Okay, so your rations have excess calories, so everyone can eat their food plus a dog's food worth of calories, and it's fine. But if you eat until you're full, then that's too much.
Right. This
And there's
uh-huh.
alcohol on that tray. Like, I mean, do
That's
you even
true.
get nutrition? I don't know. You might know better than I do, but if 20% of your calories come from a bottle of wine, like
Right.
how does that like are they gonna someone gonna have wine every day? I'm pretty sure that's unhealthy.
Yeah, you'll still have your caloric fuel, but you'll be dehydrated and at least partially.
Yeah.
Uh,
As soon as they sort of showed that the administrators like had this plan for how it was going to work. The woman, one of the um one of the inmates inserts her one of the administrators of the prison inserts herself into the prison as the main character's roommate.
mhm.
And he makes a very good point that the administrator her got to choose her roommate. She chose the guy that brought in a book, not the guy that brought in a samurai sword to be roommates with.
Yep.
She didn't go to the room. She didn't go into a room with a cannibal. She went in the room with someone that was basically harmless and sort of the everyman.
Right.
Which I mean, it makes for a better plot because like if she just died off screen, that'd be pointless. But I think they really summed up that the person who thinks they have this idea is full of shit. Which maybe that's what they're going for here. A an inaccurate, a bad parable to refute the parable. I think that's too many. I don't know if you can say that's what the writer was going for, but she spends like several days yelling at people to only take their fair share, and like
Yeah.
they just curse back at her. You shut up, you.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid, but and then
And
what does the guy say to them?
oh yeah, he one of the best lines in the movie is he gets tired of it and he runs to the guy and says, "Hey, if you eat more than you're supposed to, then tomorrow I'm gonna shit on all the food. I'm gonna spread it around so there's not a single grain of rice that doesn't have shit on it." And the woman's like, "I wanted to convince them, but I guess this is the only way, and we have to convince the people above us to follow the two." And he said, "Well, you can't do it for the people above us because I can't shit upwards." And I want to push back against that. Those
Uh-huh.
rooms were not that tall. If you
Right.
left me in there, I'm getting up that wall. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I have things I can turn into rope. There's glass. There are metal instruments. We established later in the movie that the bed can be taken apart and used for metal rods.
Hmm.
If you, I'll tell you this right now. I'm coming up there, and
Yep.
you better be awake when I start doing it because if I hear you snoring, I'm coming up there and I'm beating you to death with the rod.
Yeah, I mean, how easy would it be to climb up into that hole once the table's there
Mm-hmm.
to just like pull yourself up and then you could essentially just launch the people on the next floor downwards.
Well, I was thinking the table kind of comes down like it pauses up there, and then 2 minutes later it goes down, and it stops at your thing, which means at one point it's up in the air, but it's also like in the middle. And I was thinking If you kind of like, if you move the bed, I don't know if you can move the bed or not, but if you took everything apart in your room and made like a platform to stand on, then you
Hmm.
could just be kind of like waiting there for the table to start going down and just grab that guy when he's eating his last bite.
Yep.
Just imagine if you like that, because they only have 2 minutes to eat. So they're always at the last minute pulling food from the table as it's going down. So you can just imagine waiting there for the table to come down there, just grabbing that guy by the wrist, like, surprise, motherfucker, and just pulling him down and just toss him down the pit. Or if you want to be really gruesome, just have him halfway between when the platforms
Oh,
come down. So you just see his legs kicking. And then everyone will be nice to you after that.
I like it.
Yes, I mean, there are ways out of this, and they come up with this weird thing of we're going to send a message to the people upstairs. And I don't understand, like, the whole second half of the movie is them trying to send a message upwards.
Right.
And I thought that was so weird. Like, aren't they being watched? Because the system knows when they keep food, and it knows when people in the room are alive or dead.
Yeah.
Unless the whole thing's being run by AI, which makes the cooking scenes really strange because you'd think they would have a robot doing the cooking at that point.
Yeah. Robots should always be doing the cooking. Obviously, right?
Well, I'm just saying it's a weird part of the system to not automate
Right.
if everything else is going to be automated.
Yeah, I was just saying obviously because that was like a recurring theme for whatever reason.
Oh my god, that
So
just about drove
stupid.
me off the couch. Obviously.
Yeah, and in the beginning of the movie, the old guy, the main character says obviously, and the old guy says, "Yeah, I'll tell you more about whatever they were talking about if you stop using my word." It's like, did we establish that this was your word already, or did I miss something? It was really stupid.
Well, he was a very, very crazy person.
Right.
And I think they really undercut any sort of message they want to send. Several ways, but having everyone there be either a psychopath or an idiot really cuts into it.
Right.
It's kind of like how the Hunger Games tried to make this big moral issue, but you know, all the poor people but then one of the main characters from the broke town is a professional cake decorator. We don't have any food, but we do have 45 different colors of icing. Who's making the icing? They're in the cut down the trees and start farming. What the hell's wrong with you people?
You gotta have icing, man. That's how you survive.
I mean, they have all these woods where Katniss goes hunting,
Yeah.
and no one thinks, "Oh, we should try to grow some potatoes."
Yeah.
You can grow potatoes out of a potato.
Yeah, but Cat Piss doesn't understand that.
These people are literally too stupid to be Irish. Okay, that was strangely offensive to the Irish, but
Yeah, we don't mind.
I remember being a kid, like hearing about the Irish potato famine. I thought, why don't these grow other food? Well, the reason why is because the British, took all the land that could grow food other than potatoes.
Yep.
Which calling it a potato famine is really really shifting the blame there. Like, oh man, the potatoes went away, so the Irish died. If only we hadn't been stealing the wheat the whole time.
Yep. So there's one other thing I wanted to bring up so it's revealed that the old guy ate his last cellmate, and his next plan is to eat the main character.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts, getting ready to eat him, and he says to the main character, "I won't touch your genitals. I'll save them for later," which skeeved me out almost as much as him eating. It was just so weird. Like,
Well, I mean,
that's
that's
not
just
what he's thinking
polite.
about.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you had to choose one part to be cut off of you while you're alive, and the choice was between your calf and your dick, which one would you go for?
Yeah, that's fair. So,
So I'm saving my points my thoughts for the ending for the end because the way it ended was just so so
Okay.
strange.
There's only a few more things I wanted to talk about before we talk about the ending. Is there
Mhm.
anything else you want to grab on the way to the ending?
Um, no, I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to go over. I mean, it's just I cannot stress enough just how heavy-handed and moralistic the first half of the movie is, while being blatantly unaware of the flaws in it.
Right.
I mean, there's not enough room on that table for the food, and they don't like. They should, at the very least, they should do finger foods.
Right.
I
Something.
didn't. They went out of the way to not make finger foods for people that are eating with their bare hands.
That's true, especially people in a dirty, disgusting prison. And so there was a few more things I wanted to point out. So the main character's third prison mate,
Mm-hmm.
cellmate
So
is the I don't know the black guy's name. At
the
one point,
the knockoff Samuel Jackson.
yeah, at one point he does the best freaking drop kick I've ever seen. So their plan is to head down to the bottom floor and so they can launch up with the table
Mhm.
after it reaches the bottom. And everyone who like doesn't agree with them, they just beat the shit out of.
Yeah, which
And,
that was pretty enjoyable.
and at one point, the they're trying to convince this lady like we're gonna do a fasting for one day, and she's like, nah, go fuck yourselves. So the main character straight brains her with a pipe, and the black guy comes running, jumps off the table, and drop kicks the other guy in the most majestic fashion I've ever seen. It's
Yeah,
so
that
good.
guy was an absolute badass. Like he was. I mean, no one really had any like way of dealing with him until he ran into the samurai sword.
That's true. And that dude having a samurai sword was badass. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up about the same guy, he at one point he says he was he was talking to the main character, and the main character says that the furthest down he's been so far is level 202, right? And that
Hmm.
was when the lady hung herself, and I don't know, she hung herself so he could have food, so they both didn't die because she knew how far down they were. And at one point, they hadn't reached level 200 yet, and the black guy says, "Oh, there are more levels than you thought." When we know that there's at least 202, but he said that he counted how far it went down based on the sound, and it
Yeah.
went at least 250. We hadn't reached 202 yet, and he's already calling him out like, "Oh, you were wrong, son." And then 5 minutes later, they pass level 250, and they're still going. It was just so badly written at that point, but
No,
it
no.
was.
The
Uh-huh.
that point he was making about you being wrong was they didn't know that it doesn't stop on a floor where no one's
Hmm.
alive, and so he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, if it doesn't stop, that means your counting would have been off."
Yeah.
But I mean that doesn't really make sense because you would think that I mean, they were at level 170 something for a while and 202. They
Yep.
would have figured that out because people above them would be dead.
Right.
Because the first time they showed up on a level with no food, like a bunch of people just jumped down the pit because they were starved to death.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. Which way would
means
you go?
so okay, so if you jump down the pit so you don't starve to death, your roommate doesn't have anyone to eat.
Right.
Now, I have a theory that they see the chick riding down the table.
Yep.
How no one ever tried to go back up. Not one person thought, "Oh, I'm going to ride the table up."
Yeah.
Not one person ever tried that, even though it's the conclusion to the movie. But even if for some reason couldn't ride the table up,
Yeah.
I feel like if you're in like past level 100, you would. I guess, ride the table down and, kill people for food or something like that. Like there should be this whole like downward motion of people going and trying to be cannibals.
Right.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah, at the very least, if you woke up and you were level 200, wouldn't you
Mhm.
be going down to try and fight someone to the death?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
or would you sit there and look at an empty table and starve to death?
Well, what I would do is I would take one of like the mini weapons that come down on that table toward you that for some reason no one uses, and then I would try to make something that looks like food on the table, so that when the person below me sees that, they go, "Wait, there's food there!" And then when they're looking at it, boom, drop kick.
Yep. Drop kick. That's the go-to maneuver in this show.
I don't know. I would. I mean, I've played a lot of Batman Arkham Asylum, so I would try to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The drop kick is a
If
solid
Batman
maneuver.
was a cannibal.
Yeah. If Batman was a cannibal in a square prison or whatever. All right, so let's hear your thoughts on the ending.
For one thing, they had this idea where they were trying to go down to to basically ration the food, which they don't really explain like what's their long-term strategy. Like, are they going to ride it back up, which no one has ever thought of doing until just then?
Yep.
Or were they just going to go down to the bottom and then die? I didn't really understand like their logic for that because it's only one day that they can ride down it. And then when they get, part of the way down, he runs into this old mentor. And I don't know who that was. I don't know why anyone's listening to him. But I really wish they would have explained some sort of logic as to why sending one dish back up completely unmolested would somehow like break the system. Like are they assuming that like the news would find out when a dish went back up?
I
Like
don't
best case
know.
scenario, the robot that makes the food or the waiter or the administrator of the prison would see it, and they're not going to tell anybody about that. They're trying to keep
Right.
their job. For all we know, telling people about what goes on in the pit would get you sent into the pit. Like, I mean, they are in a situation that's like worse than they are in a torture hellscape scenario, and they think that sending a dessert up the elevator is going to somehow change things.
Right. I thought the reason for them keeping that dessert unmolested was to show everyone on the way down that they don't have to, that it's okay to ration it, to make sure that that one was protected. But I
No,
don't
no.
know.
The guy in the wheelchair explained that sending a dish up is what would change everything.
Yeah, who was that guy? Was he a freaking oracle? I didn't get that at all.
He was in a wheelchair, and everyone listened to him. Therefore, he can. I don't know. he is the Oracle in the Matrix. That's basically what's going on there.
Did everyone listen to him because he was in a wheelchair? I feel like that's what happened.
I mean, what if the wheelchair was just made of knives? And he wasn't like that at all. It's like, wheel me around or I'll cut you.
He's like Edward Scissorhands, but with no
Edward
legs.
Scissor Chair. Also, why a wheelchair? Like you could do, like you could just be in a lazy boy recliner. You're not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah, and that would
There's
be
no handicap ramp in there.
so. Here's what you do if you're him. You take your wheelchair and you throw it down the pit. So that way, when they come and switch you to whatever room you're supposed to be in, that way you can make it more of a hassle for them, and maybe they'll leave you. Like especially if you're at the top, if you're in one of the higher floors, and you're just like, no, I'm gonna make it difficult. Maybe then, no, I've lost it.
Could you imagine
Anyways.
being a janitor in that place? Oh man,
No.
I've got to clean up the bodies on all 30 floors where no one lives.
Yeah.
It's gonna be shit and blood and plates everywhere.
Yeah, but
It's got to be a
same with
biohazard.
It'd be the same with the janitors from Oz, but imagine being the optometrist there after that guy had shit in his eye.
I don't think they're getting any health care.
No,
Pretty sure
that's
they're not
sad.
getting any health care.
He's gonna have to
But
pop that eye out at some point, I would guess.
but the big kind of finale surprise is that on their way down to delivering the the tiramisu to end the suffering
Uh-huh.
is they find a kid on the in the system. And I guess because they're that far down and alive, they've been surviving somehow. The,
Hmm.
the kid doesn't seem aggressive, so I don't know if they're doing cannibalism or what. They don't really
Right.
explain how the kid got there or how they'd survived. Pretty sure someone would have
Right.
eaten that kid by now.
Yeah, and it's the kid that the Asian lady was looking for the entire movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's only two Asian characters in the movie, so they must be related.
Yes, absolutely.
So, did they imply that the kid was born there?
I don't know. I didn't get that.
I didn't get anything at that point. They just that's when the movie just went like now something completely different. A kid under the table.
And then they
And
gave
even
the
though
kid
she's
the
in a crazy
cake.
hellhole, she somehow trusts the two guys on the platform with metal bars. And I'm assuming she heard. Well, I mean, no, they've been going down a while without anyone being alive. Which seems like there'd be like one cannibal there still
Right.
somewhere along the way. But then, like the big plan at the end was, we're gonna send the kid up the elevator.
Hmm.
And just for some context, no one had ever gone up the elevator, so they're starting right off with an 8-year-old human trial. Like, they, I feel like you should have like sent an adult up first. I don't. And
Something.
I guess for a little bit of context, the elevator when it gets to the bottom of the 333rd floor, it goes back up at what can only be described as breakneck speed. This thing, this thing is hauling ass upward.
Yep.
It is so fast that in the movie, like it's just one or two frames of just the gray platform. Boom.
Yeah.
I mean, to say it's going 100 miles an hour would probably be a good estimate.
Yeah, it's the square stone version of a slingshot. So,
And they're thinking, I'm going to put a kid on this.
yeah.
So their
And
big plan after they give the dessert to the kid is to yeet her up 330 floors. It's
maybe
like, you
the
know what? This kid's hungry. We're not going to send the tiramisu up. We're going to send her up alone.
maybe the kid was ammunition. Maybe they thought the kid would splatter against like whoever was up there cooking or whatever.
I just don't imagine any scenario because they're on the 5th floor and that thing is still hauling when it goes up.
Yep.
The highest floor they're at is the 5th, and that thing is still hauling ass.
Yep.
That means it has to come to a stop in around, what, 60 feet max.
Yeah.
That thing is going at. I mean, that thing is going too fast for humans to really comprehend just how dead you would be.
Yeah.
So they basically just launched her at the ceiling of this elevator because she is the message.
That's a pretty strong message. See this
It,
kid that's splattered on your ceiling? This is what will happen to you. Oh,
yeah,
I
so
love it.
I had a different idea for how to handle this.
Uh-huh.
Just every day collect all the glass coming off of that platform. And then one day you put it all on the platform.
Oh, I like
so,
it.
so that when the person opens the door, I want it to be you ever seen those pranks where like they fill someone's dorm room completely with balloons?
Yep.
I want it to be like that, but with like platters and shit. I want like they can take all the blankets and they can kind of make like a Play-Doh, 20-foot pillar of just tightly bound blankets and feces and glass, and just send
Okay.
that upstairs.
I'm in.
And then that way, when you open it up, like the door is just caked with shrapnel and and shit.
I bet that janitor would quit that day.
That's the message they needed to send, not a high velocity dessert.
They can call the child tiramisu after they scraped her off the fucking ceiling. She could be in the next dessert or whatever. Oh, I thought it was so weird throughout the movie where like the main character was seeing the flashbacks of the other character. It was so weird. Like the characters that had died already and just so strange. I don't know what the hell was going on half the time, but anyways, so I can't remember the last movie we did this with, but was there anything else you had on this delightful movie?
No, just tiered cakes are not good for rationing.
True. So I went on IMDb and I read a couple reviews because the average rating on IMDb for this movie was a 7.0 out of 10. This is with 95,644 reviews as of today. And the Metacritic score is 73 out of 100 with 15 critic reviews. So I just wanted to read a couple of these these 10 out of 10 reviews. All right, this one is titled Not Fair. The F? The N's supposed to understand season 2. Not fair, didn't got it. We want to know if it will be part 2. 10 out of 10. Do you want that one again?
No.
I wasn't misreading that one. That one was really how it came out. All right. This one says, titled Great Movie. And the first line is very good movie. Which is it? Very good movie. Keeps you on edge. Did not expect this now. Looking for some similar movies after this. 10 out of 10. All right. This one is my favorite. This one is titled Wow. Another one. Best canned movie. Seriously, I was bored. A remake of a remake, etc. Nothing new. Just out Van Damme and Co. In it. Sorry. Just out Van Damme and Co. in it. And we got a party. Boring. 10 out of 10. I don't think this person knows how 10 out of 10 works. So, said boring twice. But the movie was rated 10 out of 10. So, that's what you're getting with IMDb. Do you like when I pull these up, these random... These are the best ones I found, at least.
That's the best review you could find?
No, these are like the best, worst ones, if that makes
the best,
sense.
worst ones.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously they had a different opinion than I did, but okay. Back to our decision here. Would you recommend that people watch this movie?
I don't think so. There's nothing in it that's like, well, you've got to see this. It's I guess if you feel like getting into an internet argument, you might want to watch it.
Yeah, that's fair. So, I would agree with you. I don't think there's any reason to watch this. I mean, I don't want to watch it, and I've already seen it. And I think the only thing you need to see, like you literally need to see that drop kick because it is phenomenal. Like I was just blown away by it. But is it worth sitting through a whole hour and a half movie? Okay, that was another thing. This movie was an hour and 36 minutes, and it felt like it was 2.5 hours. This movie felt, oh boy, It felt really long. I was bored, like that 10 out of 10 guy said. So,
I was never bored during the movie. I was angry at um, all the fallacies of logic,
sure.
and a couple times I actually paused it and fast forwarded it because I just could not watch any more bloody cannibalism.
Right. That makes sense. So, um, I guess that'll do it for us here.
Yeah, I guess I would say if you really want to watch something gross and somewhat delusional that has a that I guess we should observe that there is a decent contingent online of people that found the movie interesting and like a good allegory.
Hmm.
I would classify them as not very smart.
Yeah, I mean it's rated 7 out of 10 on IMDb, and I would probably say it's more of a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 maybe.
So is this movie better or worse than Girls with Balls?
This movie's better.
Okay.
This out of the 3 movies
It's
we've had
not a
on
2 out
worst.
of 10.
No, 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 no. This is a very average movie. I don't think there's anything really interesting or anything really like horribly offensive about it. I think that out of this will be the 4th movie that we've classified under. I mean, I guess we'll classify it under worst movies ever, but this is the best one out of those 4 for sure.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad movie. It
No.
is just not very good.
Right, right, exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean the
let's.
I
Uh-huh.
mean the main character does a pretty decent job of acting. I mean the old guy tries to be creepy and he succeeds.
Yes, he
Um
does. Just
I
watch him
mean
eat.
the psychopaths act like psychopaths. I mean there's they do a really good job of like crazy hobo on the subway
Yep,
acting.
just screaming at their shoes, just pissed off. Yep, absolutely. Let's not.
And I kind of always enjoy like this is a weird world movies. Like I mean I watched Snowpiercer. Now, that's a hard movie to watch.
Yeah,
And what else? Like The Cube, probably stuff like that. Infinity Chamber, definitely similar to this, and that is just kind of like an odd world, and they just put someone in there.
yeah. Very small cast, just kind of isolated movie. So you think it's better than those other 3, right? I don't think this should fall under the worst movies ever category. It's just a
No,
very, it's just a meh. I'd say it's a meh out of 10. You know?
yeah, yeah, it's this to me. I would put this at like the most 5e5 of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.